Okay, we'll start with this. The latest from Canada's own Kim Clavel, who took to her social media and said, the new rankings are out. Number 1 WBC and WBO at light flyweight, and IBF number 1 and number 2 at strawweight. After 4 fights and 12 months, we really haven't been idle, and today we're reaping the rewards of all of our efforts. The sequel promises to be more than interesting. When she says the sequel, what she's really talking about is a rematch with unified light flyweight champion Evelyn Bermudez, who beat Kim Clavel by way of a split decision more than a year ago in October of 2023 in a fight that confused a lot of people because looked like Kim should have won. Kim Clavel, who has fought 4 times since then and won 4 fights since then, coming off of 4 consecutive wins and sporting a professional record of 21 wins with 2 losses, no draws, 3 knockouts, having never been knocked out in 23 professional bouts. It would seem she's ready to fight for a title again, ready to take on Evelyn again. But what's she gonna do differently when by all rights, she should have won the first fight? Kim Clavel, who used to reign as unified champion at this weight, and she's one of my favorite fighters overall, exciting to watch, and a hard worker, albeit not a hard puncher. She's fast and she's agile, throws quick combinations. You won't be bored watching Kim in action, but she's not particularly heavy-handed. And I would give Kim Clavel very good odds against either Sarah Bailey, the reigning WBA champion at this weight, Lourdes Juarez, the reigning WBC champion. Because Kim Clavel is a lot more experienced than Sarah Bailey in the paid ranks, she has that many more fights and that many more rounds in the bank, as well as her quality of competition. It's better than anything Sarah has had the opportunity to see so far with only 6 professional bouts. I think that Kim would beat her if that were her next fight. With Lourdes, it's a little different. With Lourdes, due to Lourdes' age and that I think that Kim is a lot quicker to the draw, I think Kim would beat her as well, but she wants a rematch with Evelyn for obvious reasons, because of the first fight, the controversial outcome, and that Evelyn, unlike the other 2 champions, has not 1, but 2 alphabet titles. Evelyn still reigns as this division's IBF and WBO champion, and it would seem that Kim is in line to become her mandatory challenger, if she isn't already. Going to assume that Group Yvonne Michel, that still promotes Kim Clavel in her fights, mean to bring Evelyn back to Canada, just like they did the last time. They've done a fantastic job of standing by Kim, getting her back in the winner's bracket, and keeping her active, because she fights on a regular basis. Despite of not being with a major promotional outfit, if nothing else, Group Yvonne Michel is still a well-to-do outfit. I think that Kim Clavel wins the rematch. How? I'm not sure. What does she change? What does she do differently? Hard to tell when she should have won the first fight. She already did everything right. But she's proven herself resilient, and I have faith that if she gets Evelyn in the ring again, she will beat her next time. When can we expect to see that happen? I would imagine maybe towards the end of the summer or the fall, before this year is out. I would expect to see that sequel happen before this year is out, setting the stage for Kim Clavel to go on an undisputed run. That if she fights Evelyn and beats Evelyn, she can then go after the 2 remaining titles at the weight. Like I said before, I like Kim's chances against the other 2 champions at the weight. Those are winnable fights for her. She's got a lot more experience than Sarah Bailey and a lot less miles on the odometer than Lourdes Juarez. She can win. She can do it. Now let's see how long it takes her to get Evelyn back in the ring, because the run starts there. Elsewhere in the world of boxing, veteran boxing scribe Lance Pugmire tweeted from Samson Lukowicz, after watching Canelo, I wouldn't put him in the ring with Benavidez for fear he'd be badly injured. Benavidez will fight in the fall and then be ready for Cinco de Mayo to face the winner of Better Be versus Bivol 3, where the torch will be passed to him. Wait a minute. You're telling me that you would hold off on making Benavidez versus Canelo for fear of Canelo's health? Why didn't you have that same fear for Errol Spence Jr.'s health when you tried to put him in the ring with Sebastian Fundora? Remember, you spent a year on that. If you think that Canelo looked bad with William Skull, how did Errol look with Terence Crawford? That you're so worried about fighters' health. As bad as the aesthetic of Canelo versus Skull was, Canelo wasn't worse for wear. He wasn't otherwise harmed chasing William around the ring, whereas Errol was beaten half to death. And you didn't have a problem chasing him. This guy's so full of shit. The biggest part of promoting David Benavidez is name-dropping Canelo Alvarez with some regularity, even when they're not at the same weight, even when that ship has so obviously sailed. Samson can't promote this guy without using Canelo's name. But it's pointless because it's not going to happen now. That ship has sailed. It's over. Now they're saying they mean to bring David Benavidez back in the fall, when 2 weeks ago, I could have swore they said they planned on bringing him back over the summer months. A Boxing Scene article written by Jake Donovan that stated it was their intention to bring David back over the summer months, and I was skeptical about that, rightfully so, because summer has now turned into fall. Likely the reason for it is David wants to fight in Vegas exclusively and headline his own pay-per-views. But he doesn't have the dance partners. The American boxing scene does not have a big enough stake in the light heavyweight division, and the PBC by themselves don't have the bodies. I said it before and I'll say it again. All the real money in the light heavyweight division is international money. You're either talking about money in Saudi Arabia that they're paying out to fighters, or you're talking about money in the United Kingdom, all of those Brits who have a more vibrant boxing scene in the light heavyweight division than America does. And the caveat there is those Brits are not going to fight you on the cheap. They're not going to fight you for what you paid Vosdick. They're not going to fight you for what you paid David Morrell. To bring one of them here, they make more than what you paid David Morrell. They make more than what you paid those fighters all by themselves. And what are not big fights. So for a big fight, one that has an alphabet title on the line, one that would require them to come to America, they're going to want more money. If what you're talking about is a Callum Smith fight, an Anthony Yard fight, a Joshua Buatsi fight, and a separate issue. Well, those are all good dance partners. Those would be solid opponents for David Benavidez. They're not box office worthy. None of those three guys are a big name in America to where somebody's going to fork out $80 to see David fight them. As far as solid names in the division go, those are some of the more solid fighters, but they're not pay-per-view attractions, not in America, so David fighting them at $80 a pop, not to rain on his parade, but I said it then. I would be surprised if David Benavidez sees action again this year, especially in the light heavyweight division, where there isn't that much to choose from, and what is there is expensive. Unless they plan on putting him in the ring with a Jesse Hart. Well, you can't bill that as a pay-per-view. I didn't say they could, but if you bill it as a free fight, free to all existing Amazon subscribers to view as part of their Amazon subscription, maybe you could keep David busy that way. You can't bill a Jesse Hart fight as a pay-per-view, but you really can't bill the others as pay-per-views either. They won't sell. But because those other fights with those other names would be comparatively more expensive, what money you'd have to kick out to bring them over without pay-per-view, how else are you going to justify the spending, and how else do you mean to get the money back? The money you kicked out. It's a conundrum. David Benavidez's small faction of fans are still pouting over the Canelo Alvarez fight that never happened. One disgruntled fan in particular has taken it upon himself to make videos about me, though he's wasting his time, as none of this is going to improve David's situation. As I address the harsh realities of his career, the division he's currently campaigning in, and what is available to him, it's not a coincidence that where before they said they were going to bring him back over the summer, now that got pushed back into the fall. No word on potential opponents. None of it is a coincidence, but David's fans get mad at me for saying it, and saying it first. That in the light heavyweight division, it's slim pickings, because all the real money at that weight is international money, where David wants to stay local. Based out of Las Vegas, except you're not Mayweather in Vegas. You don't generate enough with your fights to bottleneck all the talent in the division and bring them to you. You don't make enough. For traveling to America, any one of those Brits can just go to Saudi or stay local. Buatsi versus Yard, for example, is still one of the bigger fights you can make in this division, and it wouldn't require either of them to travel to where they would make more boxing each other for no title at all than coming here to box you. I have my own reservations about David Benavidez. What the endgame really is, I always have, and I don't get the sense that it's a fight with the winner of Better Be versus B-Vol 3 all the way out there next year, because that's what it says. That they're planning on facing the winner on Cinco de Mayo of the coming year. Well, that's basically a year from now. And for a guy who walks around at 200 plus in between fights, who was just tight at the weight at 168, who says he won't be tight at the weight at 175 by next year? That's only really a difference of 7 pounds. How many more does he have to cut just to get down there? To where there's no guarantee that David will still be at this weight a year from now. Least of all when both he and his promoter and his father are entertaining a move to cruiserweight. They've been doing that since last year. More specifically, they've been talking about a move upstairs for Zurdo Ramirez since last year. And all Zurdo has to do is beat Uniel Dorticos. And I think that if and when he does, that's when David and his team will try to make that move to cruiser. Still name-dropping Canelo Alvarez all the while. That's when I expect to see that conversation pick up a little bit more steam if and when Zurdo beats Uniel Dorticos on the undercard of Jake Paul versus Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. It's not that far from now. I don't think they plan on staying at light heavyweight until May of next year. I don't buy it. And for that, David's fans are mad at me.
Why are you mad?
Because I refer to David Benavidez as an email champion? Well, that's what he is.
Why are you mad?
A paper champion who from the very beginning I said I didn't think he would fight either Dimitri Bivol or Artur Beterbiev.
Why are you mad?
A paper champion who I've long maintained wouldn't stay at 175 very long, because I don't think it's his goal to fight the winner of that fight or the loser. They want Zurdo because they identify Zurdo as being more beatable than Dimitri Bivol, since Dimitri already beat him. They want Zurdo because Zurdo, like them, is a guy who moved up from 168. They want Zurdo because a Zurdo Ramirez fight doesn't require them to travel. It doesn't require them to deal with Brits or go to Saudi Arabia. They want Zurdo. Because in pursuing Zurdo Ramirez, you don't have to squeeze down to 175, which is still dangerously close to 168. For a guy who walks around at 200 plus, getting down to 175 isn't easy. They want Zurdo. Because the network relationship already exists between Samson Lukowicz and Oscar De La Hoya to make such a fight a reality. And I think that jointly, they would rather do that fight amongst themselves than have Zurdo fight Jayo Pataya or David fight Dimitri Bivol. They want Zurdo. The lesser of two evils, and David's fans don't like me saying it, but David's team hasn't been mentioning Zurdo since last year for no reason. You've only been at light heavyweight for 2 fights, and you're already talking about a move to cruiserweight. And I don't think that's because of how hell-bent you are on facing either Dimitri Bivol or Artur Beterbiev. You just got there, but you're already talking about moving up. Put 2 and 2 together. David's fans don't want me to, but David's fans can suck a fat dick. Bitch. Make another video about me. See if I care. See if I even watch it, because I still haven't.
Why are you mad?
In men's heavyweight news, Andy Lee claims that Joseph Parker is the biggest challenge for Alexander Usyk. After a tremendous run of victories, Joseph Parker seems destined to collide with Alexander Usyk next year, and now the New Zealander's trainer has revealed that he knows why his man can overcome the Ukrainian superstar. Parker, 36-3 with 24 knockouts, outpointed Andy Ruiz to get his hands on the vacant WBO heavyweight title back in 2016, but would lose the strapped to Anthony Joshua after making 2 defenses. Defeats to White. A defeat to Dillian White thrusted Parker out of the world title picture, but a 6-fight winning streak saw him earn a shot at Joe Joyce and the WBO interim title back in 2022, where he was knocked out for the first time in his career. Since then, Parker has once again strung together 6 triumphs and has been scheduled to challenge Daniel Dubois for the Britain's IBF world title earlier this year, until the latter pulled out due to illness. You guys know I have my reservations about that. I don't actually think Daniel was sick. I think Daniel got up with his team and realized maybe fighting Joseph Parker is more trouble than it's worth. And if we hold out a little longer, maybe we can get an Usyk rematch, which would be for even more belts and even more money. It's what I think. Although many felt Parker deserved a shot at Usyk and the unified heavyweight titles, it is instead Dubois who will rematch his fellow champion in the summer, while Parker is expected to take on the victor for the undisputed crown. Speaking with Sky Sports, trainer Andy Lee admitted that he cannot recall such in-form heavyweight not being given the opportunity to challenge for world honors. I can't remember a heavyweight who has been on this run of form like Joe has. Wilder, Zhang, before that Simon Keane, before that Jack Macy, who was a good fighter and well-motivated. Deontay Wilder, Zhilei Zhang, Martin Bakole, 6 fights on the trot. Parker's won since the loss to Joe Joyce, and each performance has been more impressive than the last. I can't recall a heavyweight that's been in that type of form without getting a title fight. So he's earned it. He deserves it. Parker is expected to have a fight in the meantime, as he patiently awaits his deserved crack at boxing's most coveted prize, with Lee confidently stating that he knows why the Kiwi will come out on top if he and Usyk do eventually meet. I think Parker beats Usyk. I know why Joseph can win this fight. He just needs the chance to prove it. For me, Joseph deserves the fight. He's earned it, and he's the biggest challenge out there for Usyk. Should Dubois pull off the upset and hand Usyk his first career defeat, it is assumed that Parker would instead face Triple D for the undisputed heavyweight title, although Usyk could possibly intervene and force a trilogy clash with the Londoner, since Usyk won the first one, and in this scenario, Daniel will have won the second. The third would be the tiebreaker. There is that to consider. Andy didn't really get into what exactly wins Joseph the Alexander Usyk fight. I think that Father Time would beat Usyk before Joseph. Joseph's on a great run. That's cool. But the only way I can see him winning that fight is if Usyk loses a considerable step inside of the next 12 months. And we can gauge that based on how he looks with Daniel this summer. If he beats Daniel the same way that he beat him before, then no, I don't see Joseph beating him. The danger with fighters Alexander Usyk's age is oftentimes Father Time unexpectedly shows up. But because this guy's a consummate professional, because he doesn't smoke and he doesn't drink, because he doesn't have self-destructive habits, he's well preserved. And he says he only has 2 fights left in him. The Daniel Dubois fight is one. Maybe the Joseph Parker fight could be the next. Maybe we could see that fight before this year is up, because if you're fighting Danny in the summer, you can fight Joseph in the winter. Barring illness, injury, or unforeseen circumstances, this could be Usyk's final year in the sport. And what a run it's been. We'll see.